What's up, guys? It's Jeff, and today I'm going to be talking about how do you know when to rotate? How do you know when to take space, get away from the enemy team? Just the very basics of like kiting and rotations. And this is relevant to counter rotating, particularly for defending teams. So let's, go ahead and assume that you have a certain amount of space. This can be on attack too. Like if you've captured the point on King's Row and you pushed up to Bookstore, how do you know when it's an appropriate time to kite away from that position or that kind of thing? But we're assuming that you have some space, that you have some map control, and you're trying to determine when when to kite, when to counter rotate, right? So just put this up here, right? So let's go ahead and let's draw us a fake map here, and let's establish something. Let's establish a corner, right? This can be any corner of the map, and let's establish we're the attacking team, right? And we're playing on the corner with our tank. Um, and our tank can't walk around the corner because if he does, he will be cut off from his supports, right? So we're playing on the corner, and we have our supports in position, and we have a secondary corner, right, that they're playing around. So we're building out this little map here. And then the attacking team or whoever they may be is coming to take this space away from us, right? And so, no, I said we were the attacking team. Whatever. So the other team is coming to take the space away from us. This is space that we have. The other team is coming to take it away, and they're walking up, and they walk their tank up, right? And they get in this position. And we're fine right now. We're fine. We're totally fine. Why? Because their supports are still back here. And their supports are not able to contribute anything meaningful to anyone anywhere else, right? So it's just this big nothing burger happening on this corner, this big neutral mosh of like tank cooldowns and healing being exchanged. And you can kind of judge based on like what your support line is and what your tank line is, who can stand there and brawl it out the longest. DPS somewhat come into account, but it's not like Sojourn wants to sit there and just spend 110% of the time shooting your tank. But of course, if you have Ball and they have Roadhog, then you can't sit here on this corner, on this space, right? So let's assume mirror matchups. Let's assume Ramatra both on the corner. Let's assume Olari Baptiste, both the supports, right? We could fight this corner for 100 million years. So how do we know when we need to leave this corner? When the enemy team is going to take it, or when we need to aggress this corner, right? So basically when we get forced into a decision. Well, it's pretty simple. These people are going to walk up here so that they can participate in whatever's happening over there. And that's when we know that we need to do something, is when these supports come to this space. Now we have options of what we do. If we're well positioned, particularly with DPS or with ultimates, then we can actually round this corner and we can put damage on the support line while they're too close to the tank and they're vulnerable. But that's going to be hard to do if our support line is all the way over here, unable to add any of their cooldowns and abilities to what's happening here, right? So, in that instance, both teams would need to simultaneously move the supports up to these positions, and then we get the cooldown exchange advantage on their supports, right? We're playing Larry Baptiste, so we both come up, we both drop pylons, we'd have Lamp to potentially, get into the fight with. But the team that kites more is going to have a better time. I'm picking this example because it's a very survivable example, right? Like, kiting is the right move in these situations because it's a poke based composition. We're not playing like Kiriana where we can get aggressive into their cooldowns and we can just burn through them. So this is an assumption of a very defensive setup here, right? So we could make this play into these guys if we have, the right ultimates or the right characters to do it, or if our supports are set up for it, but it would be hard. And because these supports rotated close, we know that the entire enemy group is about to round this corner and add 5 people's worth of damage, not just, 2 or 3 who in tank and a DPS or 2. No, everybody's about to round this corner, and they're about to add their damage into both this sight line here to force our supports away and into our tank. And what this will almost always result in is an early kill or a massive cooldown exchange that favors the team that makes the aggressive move. We will have to use cooldowns defensively. We'll throw a Baptiste lamp out here, and it'll get burned immediately. They won't have to throw one until they're pushing the next corner. The space that they take away will be very strong for them, and it'd be very punishing for us, right? But this is when we know that we need to kite. So for instance, if we're up here and we're playing these positions, right? And this is what happens a lot of the times is you're playing these positions and the enemy team's supports are here, and you're trying to get damage in, you're trying to find pickoffs, you're trying to find kills, and so your supports are actually forward looking for that damage. Maybe you have an aggressive Ana or a Lari player who wants to find those early nades or a sleep to stall things out for another few seconds, whatever the case may be. You've got this early pressure, and that prevents the backline from walking up as easily. But once the tank comes and takes this space, they can hold this corner, right? They can peek that corner. They can shut down your support damage and your support contribution to the fight, and then their backline can walk up. At which point, that's when our backline knows it's time to get out, because the dynamic of the fight is about to change. Again, it depends on who your characters are and what you have, right? But the aggressive team would generally be favored here, assuming equal characters, assuming similar defensive-esque cooldowns. So you know that you need to kite when the supports walk up, when they come to apply that pressure. That's when you know you need to rotate out, because it means that the full team rotation is about to come in. Now, I have an example. Sorry for the flashbang, guys. I forgot how bright this map is. We have Route 66 here. It's a very clean example of like understanding when things are about to happen for the attacking team, because it's a defending team. You're going to be on this map. You're going to have your tank. You're going to have your backline. Your support. You might have a DPS, and you might have a DPS, right? Or maybe your DPS is up here. We want to control the outside of the cart space, so I almost always like having somebody over here, but that's irrelevant right now. So this is kind of our setup, right? So the attacking team, they're going to come up here, they're going to have their tank, right? And they're going to have their DPS, and they're going to have their DPS. What am I doing? This guy is definitely not peeking there. He's definitely peeking here, right? But as long as their supports are back here, pushing the cart, doing their thing. Excuse me, hiccups. As long as their supports are back here pushing the cart, doing their thing, just getting the healing onto their DPS, making sure that their tank stays up, maybe they rotate out here to help this DPS, though they're playing off the pack, really, right? As long as their supports are in this space, nothing is really happening. But the moment this support line walks up here, because, maybe the cart has pushed all the way, to here, and the contest is happening, the moment that the supports push up, and we have to deal with the supports peeking here and adding their cooldowns into the team fight, that's when the enemy team tank now has this huge lease on life. Because before, the issue was, if we go back to these red players here, but before, the issue is if the tank tries to push anything like this, the tank walks around this corner to do anything, to take any space, to contest a DPS, to bully a support, whatever, then his supports can't see him. He's cut off. He can't. There's no line of sight, and he gets all of his cooldowns forced and probably dies if cooldowns are used properly by the defenders. If the damage focus comes through, if we're playing intelligently, right? However, once the supports end up here in this green space, then the tank gets the ability to walk aggressively, because he's going to continue receiving resources as he does so. He's not breaking line of sight. And so he wants to force this off, and really the pathing is you force this off, and then you take around the outside of cart and you go this way, and your supports swing wide over here, and so on and so forth, right? But the idea still is that you get them close enough that your tank is able to springboard off of that corner, right? So going back to our theoretical space here, getting rid of that, right? The idea is that your tank and your supports are a certain distance apart for safety, and then the moment that the supports move up, then your tank does as well, right? Um, so you're constantly compressing the team. That's the point of compression. That's where you have the least amount of depth. Your supports are the closest to your tank. You're both most vulnerable, and um, you have the most potential energy, the most opportunity to make aggressive plays, because now your tank has the freedom to move anywhere that your supports can easily gain line of sight, and that's how you springboard attacks. Um, and then these areas over here are your most stable points, where you've got the maximum depth, where you have good sight lines supporting everybody, where the space that you have is very comfortably yours, and it's on the enemy to try and take that away from you. One thing you'll notice is when you see a rotation, people want to make a rotation around the map on something like Flashpoint or Control, or a hybrid like King's Row or Numbani. Um, this is the formation of a rotation. The supports tuck into the tanks, DPS play to control that immediate zone, and they move through those spaces in a compact unit, because at any given moment they're going to stop, they're going to drop their supports off in the position that they want them to play in, and then they're going to launch their attack from there with their tanks, right? So this is the basics of, like, just the basics of rotational movement. But without looking at how to do rotates, we get to see that here on this map of, this is also how the defending team can recognize, ooh, the attacking team is about to do something. The supports are moving up to help make the play. Now, a really crafty high-level team, the supports will move up just out of line of sight, and then the tank will make their play, and then the supports will wide swing immediately after, rather than before. It shouldn't be on the supports to open up the opportunity by wide swinging the angle aggressively and like hitting a sleep or picking off a character with Hilari or something like that. It's not up to the brig player to determine when we swing this corner, but it is up to the brig player to determine when we are capable of swinging this corner, right? By tucking in close enough to the tank that it's easy for the supports to be involved in whatever ends up happening over here. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, or you can find me on Discord, message me directly. DMs are open, and I'm always happy to answer it. If it's an in-depth question, of course, we'll make another video covering it. But yeah, hopefully this is something that's useful to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All right, peace.